Hi everyone, I'm so excited. This is my brand new book coming to you exclusively through Urban Sketch Course. It's called Sketching Stories, and as the name implies, it's all the stories that happen to me while I'm out and about on location creating my urban sketching scenes, trying to tell the stories of the places that I see, but also the things that occur to me while I'm on location. It's got about 30 stories. Each story happens in a different part of the world, from America to Mexico to France to Italy to Germany, lots and lots and lots in the UK. They're illustrated. Each story probably has about 5 or 6 images that go with them to hopefully give you a really good insight into things that happen to me as an urban sketcher. Also, it's really thick and it's really heavy, 170 pages, that is so important. But what I'd like to do now, just for a few moments, is just read you the foreword at the beginning, because it's kind of important, I think, for me to introduce this book with a kind of personal insight. And also one more little thing, it's actually dedicated to my dad, who was a milkman, and there's a story all about him at the back. But before that, let me just share the foreword with you. And this is called A Tale of Two Sketches, and it happens in New Brighton in England, which is not far from where I live. New Brighton is just down the road from where I live, and I've been visiting it all my life. It's a seaside town on the banks of the River Mersey, and it was popular in the late Victorian period when people from all over the north of England came for a holiday or a day out. It once had a fancy pier, enormous tower, winter gardens, a famous ballroom and a wide promenade. Everything you would need for a holiday at the seaside. Afterwards, along came the donkey rides, the saucy postcards, the amusement arcades and candy floss. And then everybody started flying off to Spain for cheap package holidays, and it became less popular. The cafes got a bit grim, the pier collapsed, they dismantled the tower, and the ballroom went up in flames. The Beatles played at the Tower Ballroom 27 times in the early 1960s before they were famous, and my dad worked as a doorman there, and I was proud of him for this. And when I was little, we would go to New Brighton for summer days out. My sister and I would play on the beach and build sandcastles, swim in the River Mersey, feed chips to the seagulls and get sunburnt. They were magical memories. So years later, I'm sitting down and I'm sketching the old Victorian shelter, and it really takes me back in time. I'm remembering the amusement arcades and fairground rides, eating bags of chips on the bench, burying my sisters in the sand and riding donkeys on the beach. But my mind also drifts off to imagine the Victorians dressed in their finest Sunday best, promenading up and down the seafront, afraid to get sunburnt and stopping off for a cup of tea. You can feel the contrast between the fancy Victorian ironwork on the shelter and the tatty bright spot facade of the amusement park across the road. Pigeons and seagulls have always been there, hoping for a dropped chip or a sandwich, and familiarity with a subject can really help when you sketch. You're able to draw not just what you see, but what also you understand. So when I sat down and drew this subject, part of me was fixed in the moment, stressing about composition, tone and detail, and wanting the different textures to come through and emphasising the distance between the shelter in the foreground and the arcade in the background. I was also worrying about perspective, planning out the colours and trying to tell the story of me in the here and now. But I was also thinking back to my dad in the early 1960s and his part-time job at the Tower Ballroom. I wondered if he ever met the Beatles. He never mentioned it, but perhaps he did. I don't think they were important to him because he preferred Andy Williams. Remembering family stories won't come out in a sketch, but they're part of the process, the thoughts that drift through your mind as you're holding a pen. I think they give meaning and make it more personal. Most of the work in this book is a tale of two sketches, what you see and what you understand. And that's what the book is all about. It's about sketching stories, and the stories that become really personal insights into you and the world in which you're trying to capture. And that's what makes urban sketching so magical.